Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my show. I know it's been a long time. It's been a few weeks, even, but it's been very busy for me. I just got back from vacation literally yesterday, so I haven't had a ton of time to do the show or really do anything other than just enjoy my vacation. So I'm glad that I'm back. I missed you guys. I couldn't wait to come back and do a show. That's why I decided to do a show pretty much right away as I came back. But how are you guys doing? How was your Christmas? There is a lot to go over, so just buckle in, get a snack maybe. This is gonna be another one of those long streams. I had to cut some stories even just because there was just too much to talk about. But hi, thank you for waiting. By the way, sorry that I'm late. I decided to use a different camera, and the mic and audio situation should be a lot better, should be a lot clearer. But as you guys know, because I'm using a new camera, who knows what might happen tech wise. So I have my fingers crossed that everything's gonna go fine. We shouldn't have any issues. I'm using my MacBook, but we'll see. But anyway, how are you guys doing? Hi Prototype, hi Ethereal Dragon, hi Jay Heedley, hi Natanya, hi Nagisa, hi Alexander, hi Jay, hi the Spyro fans, hi everyone who is here. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for a long time. Again, I appreciate your patience. So sounding crisp, says Prototype. That's very good to hear. Also, this probably isn't going to be my permanent background. This is just what I've got going on today. So yeah, this will evolve and change over time, but I had already made you guys wait like 15 minutes late, so I didn't want to spend time trying to find a new place that we can go talk and discuss. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot to go over. We have to break down the new Superman trailer. We have to talk about the fact that the Batman's delayed. We're going to talk about all the Christmas movies that came out and how well they did. We also have to talk about how poorly the Kraven the Hunter did, because I missed that. So yeah, lots to discuss today. Like I said, probably going to be a very, very long stream. But anyway, let's just get straight into it because I don't want to. I'm already late and there's a lot to go over. So let's just go straight to box office news. Fingers crossed everything works. All right, so good. So far, so good. So like I said, Kraven the Hunter did terribly. Actually embarrassing. Not just, oh, it kind of flopped, but oh no, this is a straight up disaster bomb. Couldn't have been any worse. As you guys can see, Kraven the Hunter opened with 11 million domestically. Not the first day, the entire weekend. It opened to just $11 million. That is one of the worst openings ever for a comic book movie, and it is even below Madam Web. So yeah, things are not going well with Sony and their weird villain movie spin-off things. Even they've realized, okay, maybe we should stop. But to be honest, they're making a lot of excuses. Apparently they think everyone else is the problem and not them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So Kraven the Hunter is tracking to open below, or finish below, $100 million, which is going to be one of the few modern comic book movies to ever just not pass that benchmark. So, and that's worldwide, by the way. That's not even domestic. That's 100 million worldwide. It's not even going to make close to that. So yeah, that's very embarrassing. That means there was just no interest in this film whatsoever. And it got a C cinema score, so audiences weren't really liking the movie. It's not just critics, even though the people at Sony will have you believe, oh, it was just the critics going after them. The movies are good. Okay, but the audience clearly does not agree, because a C cinema score for a comic book movie is not a good grade. Not a good grade in the slightest. I still haven't gotten the chance to see this movie. I haven't had the chance to see a lot of movies just because I've been traveling, but nothing that I've heard about this movie has been good. So obviously I think this movie was pretty much doomed to fail from the beginning. Yeah, does not. This movie is pretty much a disaster. Did anyone actually see this film, Kraven the Hunter? Ethereal Dragon says the CEO is blaming critics despite many people ignoring critics. Exactly, especially with comic book movies. I feel like critics don't even have that kind of sway because people will see a comic book movie if they're just interested. So if people like ignored a comic book movie, it's not because the critics, were mean to it or whatever. It's just because they weren't interested. So I think them trying to blame the critics is ridiculous. But let me get to exactly what they said. So, according to the team at Sony Pictures CEO Tony Vinciquerra says that the Kraven the Hunter is the worst launch they've had for a film since he became CEO in 2017. He says he still doesn't understand because the film is not bad, except it has a C cinema score and even critics don't like it. I feel like that explains a lot about why they keep making these movies if they think even this movie is good. Like, if they think Madam Web and Venom, like the Venom sequels, not the first one. I think the first one's okay, but the sequels are pretty bad. But yeah, if they think all of those movies are actually good and just misunderstood, I really question the taste level of the producers that are making these films. Because how do you look at a movie like Madam Web and go, cinema, people will love this? I feel like you have to really not understand what people want from a movie to think that that's a kind of film that is good. You know what I mean? And they mentioned Madam Web too. He said, Madam Web isn't a bad film. It underperformed in theaters because the press just crucified it. It was not a bad film and it did great on Netflix. I think the press was pretty harsh on this movie, to be fair, but I don't think the reason was because the critics were mean to it. It was just a bad movie. If you can really seriously defend that film, that makes me question your taste level on all of the other movies that you're making. Because if you're like, oh yeah, Madam Web is fine, then where is your bar for like what's passable? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like their expectations are rock bottom. I think to them it's like, well, I mean, the movie has a beginning, middle, and end. So, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, I feel like that's like the bare minimum they must have for this movie as far as expectations go. Because how can you seriously say it's the critics' fault and not the movie's? I mean, seriously. And I see that Tanya's having to delete a lot of messages. Are people spamming the chat? Please don't spam the chat, guys. But thank you, Natanya, for being on top of it. But anyway, again, what do you guys feel about this? Do you feel like these movies are that bad? Do you feel like the critics are just being unfair to them? Or do you think they're just telling it like it is? I mean, I reviewed this movie. I told you it's not good. So I don't think that this was a good movie that was just treated unfairly. But what do you guys think? Negrette says 2025 will definitely have less flops. I don't know about that, actually. I was looking ahead at what 2025 has to offer, and let me just say I think 2026 will be a stronger year. I think especially the first half of 2025 is actually pretty weak, but we'll see. Josh says Sony is the reason why Columbia Pictures had a disastrous 100th anniversary. It's as bad as Disney and Warner Brothers anniversaries, more failures than hits. Yeah. I mean, all the studios are really struggling. The entire industry is struggling. It's really not just Disney. It's not just Warner Brothers. It's everyone. Making decisions like this, saying stuff like, oh, it's the audience that's wrong, when you have a movie like Madam Web, shows that they have learned absolutely nothing. Prototype says, I haven't watched them, so I can't say for sure. But judging by what I heard from several reviewers, awful. Yeah, the movies are pretty bad. Negrette agrees. 2026 looks like it's going to be a banger year. We're going to talk about the Christopher Nolan movie as well. But moving on, because there's a lot to go over. So, again, he had a lot to say. So he said that they're rethinking the future of their Spider-Man villain spin-off movies. If we put another one out, it's going to get destroyed, no matter how bad or good it is. That is true. I think at this point, these movies have built up a lot of bad will. So even if they did make another one, because we've seen the history, we've seen Morbius, we've seen Madam Web, we've seen Kraven, we've seen Venom 3 and 2. Yeah, we're going to expect it to be pretty bad because their track record is pretty bad. Not just because we want to see these movies fail. Again, I think Hollywood is doing way too much like blaming the audience and not enough looking in the mirror and being like, huh, am I the problem? Because this strategy was so dumb from the beginning. Like, why wouldn't they? I've been saying this forever, but why would Sony not take the cue from like the Into the Spider-Verse films and like just have, if they really wanted their own cinematic universe, which I understand, but why did they decide to like focus on the villains? That I do not understand. Why didn't they take a cue from the Spider-Verse movies and like just do a different Spider-Man movie for all the different various Spider-Mans? Like, why don't we have a Spider-Gwen movie and then, like, heck, maybe even a Spider-Noir movie or just, like, one of the millions of other Spider-Mans that are out there. And then you could have had, like, a cinematic universe of different Spider-Men. And then you have Peter Parker as, like, the prime Spider-Man or something. Like, what? That would have made so much more sense and would have been a lot more successful than this stupid strategy of just focusing on the villains. Like, it just feels very, like, we don't understand our audience. You know what I mean? That's why these comments really puzzle me, because it's like, you really don't understand your audience at all if you really think that they're the problem and not your movies. Fake mustache, you think they're garbage. Oh my gosh, so many of these comments are getting deleted. What is going on? Yeah, what are there people like spamming my chat? What is happening? Okay, Negret would like a Spider-Man movie. Spyro fan says, how much will Kraven make in its final run? Well, less than 100 million, which is pretty terrible. Oh, I'm so Yancey says you're tired of the cinematic universe stuff and you just want nice movies. Yeah, I mean, can they just prove that they can consistently make a good movie before they worry about a cinematic universe? I know that's hard for any studio nowadays because they all want a cinematic universe. But yeah, I think they should like start off a little bit slower and just like get their quality up first. I think that will help everything afterwards. Yes, Josh, there is a Spider-Man Noir series, but I mean the movies. I mean, like, have a different Spider-Man-focused movie. I feel like that would have been much more successful than, like, all these various, like, villain movies. Like, I don't understand that strategy at all. Thank you, Natanya, for being a great moderator. You're on top of it. All right. Anyway, moving on, though. So, again, they're even, like, I feel like they're really butthurt. They're like, we don't understand why Kraven did badly. It's actually a good movie. Oh, look at Madam Web is actually a good movie. Oh, look, Morbius is actually profitable. Like, I feel like they're really, really upset. And now that's why they're announcing all this stuff, because it just feels like they're very, very butthurt by the reception to these movies. And they're like trying to prove that everyone's wrong by being like, hey, look, Morbius was actually profitable. And I'm like, okay, but was it, or is this just like some clever Hollywood accounting here? Because it didn't make much, and even if it did make some money, it probably wasn't a lot. It clearly didn't make a sequel to it, so it didn't make that much money. But anyway, I just thought it was really funny how they just came out of the woodworks trying to defend these movies, and they're the only ones defending them, like the only ones. But anyway, moving on. Wicked is doing very well. I'm still very happy by that. It won't reach 1 billion, mainly because it's doing super well domestically, but not as strong, like, internationally. I was wondering if this movie would do well outside of the US, just because I know Wicked's, like, a huge musical here in the US, and I think its performance here has proven that. But I wasn't sure how popular or successful the Wicked name was outside of the US. So it seems like it's not that popular at all, because if overseas was as strong as the domestic numbers, it would make 1 billion. But it's not going to come close because the international numbers are actually quite bad. But anyway, let's just focus on the good for now. For good. And we're just going to talk about how it's doing domestically. So, Wicked has become one of the top 50 highest grossing films of all time in the US. So, we're just talking about the US here. Wicked has become the third film to pass 400 million domestically in 2024. There are only two other films released this year that did better, which were Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. So here in the US, this movie is like a bona fide blockbuster. Like, it's up there with Deadpool and Wolverine. Internationally, though, it's very, very poor. It's probably going to end up somewhere between like 600 to 700 million. I wish it would do more than that, but unfortunately it's not. But I still think 400 million domestically is a huge achievement. Like, most films don't even come close to that. Most films would like love to just make this number worldwide. So, I mean, it's doing really well domestically, but I still wish it did a little better overall. But Wicked has become the highest grossing musical adaptation of all time globally, passing Mamma Mia. So, Mamma Mia is actually a very, very popular musical. So the fact that this passed that just shows you the strength of the Wicked brand. Also, I think that also kind of shows you how musical adaptations don't usually do that well. Because for Mamma Mia to be the highest grossing and then Wicked to pass it and it's not even going to come close to $1 billion, just shows you how, like, not that popular musical adaptations are. Popular. I'm making all sorts of puns and I'm not even trying to. But anyway, which I don't understand. As you guys know, I love musicals. I'll never understand why people don't like them. I genuinely, like, I try to have an open mind and I try to see things from a different perspective a lot of the times. But when it comes to musicals, I'm just like, it's not clicking. I've always been such a musical girl. I've always been such a theater geek. I've always been such a theater kid that I'm like, I can't fathom not liking musicals. Like, it really does not compute in my head. I'm like, what's not to love? But nevertheless, they aren't as popular as I wish they are. And this just kind of proves it, since Mamma Mia was apparently the highest grossing. Is anyone surprised by this? David Gandhi said, thank goodness, not a fan of Mamma Mia. Josh thinks Wicked is so much better than Mamma Mia. Okay. I'm So Yancy says, you're not a big fan of musicals, but you loved Wicked. I did see a lot of comments online of people saying they don't normally like musicals, but they liked Wicked. I wonder if that's just because, A, the music is really good, but also, I think that, honestly, I think part of the reason why movie musicals haven't been as popular is because they haven't leaned into the theatricalness of it. Like, I feel like if you're going to do a musical, you got to go full hog, full, like, camp, full, like theatrical, in the sense that Wicked did, where they, like, really went, like, and they built a whole Oz, like, they built all the sets, like, they didn't shy away from the fact that it was a musical, like, they really, like, they made Wicked the movie for people who love musicals. And I feel like more movie musicals need to do that. I feel like a lot of movie musicals almost act apologetic for being a musical. And I feel like if you're going to make a successful one, you just gotta, like, you gotta go for it. And Wicked really went for it. So I feel like that's part of what makes it so successful. Okay, Great for Harmony thinks Cats is to blame. I think, honestly, genuinely, I think Cats did something. I think Cats was like the final straw for a lot of people. I think Cats should have never came out. That was just not something that could ever be, like, translated to movies. I think I saw Cats. It was not good. And I love musicals, and it was not good. So I really do think Cats might have had a hand in it, for sure. But anyway, moving on. So something weird is that they're already, like, rushing it to digital on December 31st. I say weird because I feel like this movie is still doing very well domestically. You could have, like, got some more money out of it by just keeping it in theaters only, but they're already rushing it to digital. I feel like this is too soon. I really do feel like this is way too soon. Like, part of why people feel like they can just wait to see a movie in theaters now is because they know if they just wait a little while that they'll just be able to watch it at home. I mean, there's been a couple of movies, even just this year, that, like, I wanted to see, but for whatever reason I was busy that weekend and I couldn't go see it. but like found out in 2 weeks that it was going to go straight to digital, and I was like, well, there's no point in going to the theaters now since it's going, straight to my home. So I really feel like they gotta wait longer and let these movies really cook in theaters first before they rush them to digital. I feel like that's gotta be hurting the box office, or at least movie theaters. And movie theaters really need all the money they can get right now. So I don't like this. I think they should have waited before they sent this to digital, but this seems to be the running trend lately for some reason. But at least you'll be able to go see this at home soon. I guess that's a positive. I don't know. I do want to see Wicked at least a third time in theaters, though, especially now that they have the sing-along version. I know all the lyrics by heart, so I think I might actually go to the sing-along version. I'll be holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity out loud. But anyway, moving on. So, also they retitled Wicked Part 2 to Wicked for Good, which For Good is one of the more popular songs from the second half of the musical. So that makes sense. Although, maybe this is just me personally, but I always thought No Good Deed was the most popular song from the second act. I didn't realize until this movie came out that so many people liked For Good. Because I like For Good, but it's not in like my top 5 favorite songs from that soundtrack. So I thought No Good Deed was more popular, but apparently they think For Good is the marketable song, so that's interesting. They are adding 2 new songs to the next movie, so I'm very curious to see how those sound. But anyway, moving on. Now let's talk about Mufasa. I've been telling y'all Mufasa, I've been like this movie's biggest hater, and I have openly admitted to it just because I hated that last live action movie so much. I was like, why are we watching these uncanny looking, this ugly looking gray ass movie, that's just this uncanny, like, no facial expressions on these animals. Like, I hated that movie. I really, really hated that movie. But Mufasa, The Lion King, opened to $35 million domestically, which is significantly lower than the $191 million that the last one opened to. I can't even believe the last one opened to that crazy number. I mean, I know The Lion King is very popular, but come on. But anyway, 35 is significantly less than 191, so obviously this movie's not going to make anywhere close to the last one, which I am happy about. However, it held up really well in its second weekend. In fact, it got an A- cinema score, so I think audiences like this movie a bit more than critics, which I think helped it become the #1 film on Christmas Day, because it earned $14.7 million, which is actually a really good hold. So now, what seemed like a total flop on opening weekend, because it held so well, it might actually make a modest profit. It's not going to be a huge hit. It's not going to get close to $1 billion. It's probably going to make around like $600 million worldwide. But that's at least high enough that Disney can say that's not an embarrassment, even though it's $1 billion less than the first movie. But I mean, I guess people liked this film. I still haven't been able to see it. Like I said, for the past week, I was in Disney World and then I went to Universal, so I had zero time to go see movies for Christmas. I will see Mufasa and I will review it. I'll probably review it sometime this week, in fact, so make sure that you follow me on Twitter and you check the community tab, because I will be letting you guys know when I'll do like a whole special stream just reviewing Mufasa. And maybe Nosferatu. Might do like a double feature type thing, so I wanted to see that as well. But anyway, I do want to see those movies quite a bit. And I'm curious to see if maybe I'll like this movie more than the last one, but I honestly highly doubt it. Did anyone actually go see Mufasa? Did anyone think it was good? I have no idea who's watching this. I have no idea. Will Friend says the bar is so low for Disney. It really is. Why do they have to try when people still show up for this? You know what I mean? Like, why do they have to try? Tanisha. The Spyro fan says, I personally liked Mufasa. Okay. I didn't think it was that bad, and they did fix some changes of having better animation in it. Are they more expressive? that just really bothered me in the last movie because they tried to be too realistic. They tried to be so realistic that like the characters weren't expressive, and I just felt like I was watching like a National Geographic film with like some voiceover. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt watching that movie. That's why I hated it. Josh Loves Movie says, not for a movie with a $200 million budget. Yeah, the budget's likely even higher than that. You know they underreport these budgets. Especially with the fact that this movie is entirely CGI. I would not be shocked if it was more than $200 million. But we'll just see how it legs out. If it legs out really well, it might still maybe break even. But yeah, it's not going to make like a ton of money. That's for sure. We will talk about Sonic in a second. But anyway, moving on. So the film has passed 300 million worldwide, and that's only in 2 weeks. So that's why I said if it holds well, I could see it getting up to like 500, maybe even 600 million. Not a ton of money, and yes, the budget is crazy, so they'll probably just barely break even, but I think it's not an embarrassment, because it could have been a lot worse with that $35 million opening. But yeah, Sonic 3 actually did open number 1 domestically, with 62 million, which doubled the Mufasa opening. So we were hoping that Sonic 3 would do better than Mufasa, and yes, it did. In fact, it did twice as well. So that's very good for Sonic. In fact, Sonic just they just announced that there's a Sonic 4 in the works, so I don't think Paramount's going to be done making these Sonic movies anytime soon, since they're pretty reliable at this point. There's like a very big audience for these movies. Doesn't come out till spring 2027, though. That sounds like a very long time from now. I don't know why they can't get these movies out sooner. Like, I feel like it's taking longer and longer to get sequels out, and like seasons of TV shows too. Like, I don't know what's going on with that, but I really do feel like it's a problem. But anyway, people did like it. It got an A cinema score, so that's decent. In fact, that's more than decent. That's really good. So I'm not surprised they're making more of these movies. I'm glad that it opened higher than Mufasa, just personally. So yeah, really, really, really good for these movies. Also, a Complete Unknown, which is the Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet. It earned 7.1 million in the film's domestic opening day, which is the biggest opening day ever for a Searchlight film. And I believe in the 5-day box office weekend, it got up to around 20 million for the whole weekend, which is actually really good for a Searchlight film. Their films don't typically do that well. I mean, Searchlight films typically make like 20 million total. So that just shows that Timothée Chalamet is a draw. Even though these numbers seem small, these are quite big for Searchlight. And for a biopic, I think on like a, even though Bob Dylan, you know, he's a known person, he's not like Queen in the sense that like everyone knows their music. So I think this is actually pretty strong. And I think you gotta give Timothée Chalamet, you gotta give him some credit, because he did everything he possibly could have to promote this movie. Homeboy was doing anything just to get attention. I mean, did you guys see this video he did where he did some like weird like art piece thing where he started dancing to I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas in like this weird warehouse thing, and he was just like dancing really weird and doing weird stuff. I have no idea at all what this has to do with Bob Dylan or his movie, but it sure got attention, and I guess that's all he really wanted. I mean, he was also like going on football games and like talking to football fans. He was just doing anything. He was like, I'm gonna go out there and promote this movie best I can, and boy did he. So no one can say that Timothée Chalamet will not lock in to promote a film, because what the heck is this? I mean, it worked, I guess. It worked. I think he's also getting a lot of Oscar buzz, so this might be part of his Oscar campaign, which I'm enjoying. I think this is like one of the funnest Oscar campaigns I've seen in a minute. But anyway, I just think that he's really funny. Did anyone see this? What did you guys think of The Complete Unknown? Did you guys see that movie? Have you guys been noticing his Oscar campaign and the stuff he's been doing? What are your thoughts here? Josh says he's filming Marty Supreme for A24. He's making so many biopics before Dune, Messiah, Wonka too. Yeah, he seems to be like balancing between the smaller films and the bigger films, which I actually think is really good for him. Okay, Negrit says more actors and actresses need to do this. I actually agree. I think Timothy understands that like the world is changing, and not getting political at all. I'm just making a point here, but like after the election, a lot of people were talking about the fact that this was the podcast election. How like basically like Trump, for example, he wouldn't really go on like any of the mainstream news outlet shows, but he would go into like a lot of YouTube channels and podcasters and that sort of thing, and that genuinely just got him more attention than he ever would have if he just got on like mainstream television. So I think maybe Timothy understands this, that we're living in a very different media age and you gotta market things differently, because I feel like that's what he's been doing. He's been going to people where they are. He even went on a right-leaning podcaster, one of the same ones that Trump went on. So he understands that you gotta have to like appeal to everyone, which means going outside of like the liberal bubble, the liberal like news bubble, which I think honestly probably also helped this movie. So I think I totally agree with you. I think actually more actors should be campaigning for their roles like this. I mean, the song is a banger, that's true. I just don't know what it has to do with Bob Dylan. Ashley Banks says, Timothy Chalamet and Robert Pattinson are in everything, but I prefer the type of guy over Ryan Reynolds and Paul Rudd type dudes, if that makes sense. No, totally agree. I think Timothy Chalamet and Robert Pattinson are squarely like millennial kings. Like, the millennials love them. Whereas I think Ryan Reynolds and Paul Rudd are, I think, like, older generations like them, if that makes sense. Although I know, like, Gen Z and stuff loves Deadpool. Actually, do they love Deadpool? I actually think it's millennials that love Deadpool. Wasn't it, there was some sort of survey or whatever recently that was like, only millennials and older really care about superhero movies. So does Gen Z actually care about Deadpool? I don't know. But anyway, that was just my observation. Josh says he even went on ESPN to promote this movie. He knows exactly what he's doing. Exactly. I think this was the right campaign for this movie. I really do. Especially since I think Bob Dylan probably appeals more for conservatives than, like, liberals. But anyway, moving on. Also, Nosferatu opened very well. It opened with 40.3 million domestically, which for a horror film is amazing. Like, really, really amazing. That's the second biggest opening for an R-rated horror movie in 2024. And it's Robert Eggers' highest grossing movie domestically. So Nosferatu's doing well, A Complete Unknown's doing well, Mufasa's actually doing stable, Sonic's doing well, Wicked's doing well. It seems like the whole year was kind of like, there were a few highlights, but a lot of duds, but then like in the last like 2 months, there's been like a ton of movies that have hit off. But this is, I think, not the calm before the storm, but the storm before the calm. Because as I told you guys, the beginning of next year, there's like nothing coming out. Like at all. To the point where I think January I'm probably going to make like live streams on like, I still have to do a live stream on my favorite movies of 2024. I'm going to do that. I'll probably do some other like general ones like that because I don't think there's going to be like a ton to actually review and talk about, but we'll see. But yeah, anyway. Moving on from box office news to entertainment news. Hold on. Da-da-da. Yes, okay. So, The Batman 2 has been delayed by an entire year. So, it will now be coming out on October 1st, 2027. So that's a long time. A very, very long time, especially since the first Batman movie came out in 2022. So that's going to be a 5-year gap. A 5-year gap. In fact, that's like a 5.5-year gap. That's a very long gap between movies. And I was trying to think back to like the Christopher Nolan movies. And like, because it seemed like he got those out pretty regularly. Like, Batman Begins came out 2005. The Dark Knight came out in 2008, and then The Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012. So between the Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, that was a 4-year gap. But that's still less than this, which is going to be a 5.5-year gap. So I know, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, why don't we, just give them time to, like, make sure that's perfect? You can't rush art. Like, I've seen all those comments. However, I also think from, like, a business perspective, this is dumb. And here's why. So firstly, Robert Pattinson was cast in the first Batman movie as a young Batman. Like, there was a lot of, like, back before he was even cast and they were looking for a new Batman, that was, like, the main thing that they were looking for. They were looking for someone young, someone who could age with the role, which makes sense, right? However, by the time the second Batman movie comes out, Robert Pattinson will be in his 40s. He's not going to be that young anymore. So there's that. Secondly, let me just go to the tweet, because I think that this will explain what I mean here. Not this. Okay, so yes, I saw this tweet that explained exactly why I think this is actually a bad idea. So, in all of the Phase 1 movies of the MCU, so that's the first Captain America, the first Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, and then Thor. So that's 5 movies. Actually, plus 6, so that's Avengers, so 6 movies. The first phase of the MCU was able to get out 6 movies in the span that these Batman movies will come out. There will only be 2. Do you get what I'm saying? They're only going to have released 2 Batman movies in the same time span that the MCU was able to get out 6 movies. If they're really serious, and I know the Batman films are not part of the DCU yet. I think there's still potential that could change. But anyway, so far I know they're not part of the DCU. However, the James Gunn is in charge, and he's saying this is okay because they don't have a script yet, and he doesn't want to start rolling on anything until there's a script. And while I get that, that's a very good practice to have. Why has it taken him several years to even write a script? In fact, there's no full script yet. There hasn't even been a first draft of the script yet. The last movie came out in 2022. It's now been almost 3 years since that movie came out. And there's not even a first draft of the script. There's taking your time to make sure something is good. And then there's taking way too long to the point where it's if you really need that much time to make a good script, maybe you're not as good of a writer as you think you are. Because I do think there is a certain line where it becomes a bit ridiculous. And it's okay, this is taking too long now. Now, maybe there's other things that are happening behind the scenes. I don't know. Maybe they are thinking of merging the two universes. I think that makes the most sense. There's no sense at all in there being 2 different Batmans. That's dumb. But if that's not the case, and it really is just Matt Reeves is just taking his sweet time, I think James Gunn should be telling him to hurry up a bit. I really do. I think he's giving him too much leeway, too much freedom, too much control over a property that's not really his. And that's just me coming from a business perspective. I understand from the artistic perspective, you should just let him cook, let him do what he wants, whatever. But if you're trying to rival Marvel at its peak, you're not going to do it by doing this, by waiting 5 to 6 years to release sequels. It's just not going to happen. Again, they were able to do an entire phase of movies in that same time frame. You gotta speed it up a little bit. I really do think this is going to be bad for the movie overall, and I think by the time the film comes out, I think a lot of the hype and interest will be gone because people move on very quickly now. People lose interest like that. And I feel the first movie was soft as is and only made as much as it did once people found out how much people liked it and how good the movie was. But honestly, leading up to it, if you guys remember before the movie came out, the pre-sales were pretty bad. They only picked up like the week the movie came out because reviews were so good. So the success of that first movie was very fragile. It was not like a surefire hit from the beginning. It was only a hit because of the strength of word of mouth. You wait 5.5 years for the sequel, you very much risk people not caring anymore. There will be some who will. There are some diehard The Batman fans. But I feel like the casuals who just showed up because of the hype and the word of mouth, they're not going to care. They're just not going to care. So I do think this will hurt the sequel in the long run. But what do you guys think? Should they just take as much time as they need to get this movie out? Or do you think, like me, they're actually taking too long? What do you guys think? Okay, so I'm So Yancy says, yes, it's too long. Nick, your son is going to be 16 to 17 when this comes out. I just said that, Ashley. So, no, I didn't miss that. Madonna's Plastic Surgery says, could this have been because of the writer's strike? Sure, but the writer's strike was only about, 6 months or so? I mean, that's a long strike, but even if he was, he didn't want to cross the picket line and he truly didn't do any writing for that 6 months, he still has, almost 2 years to have completed that script outside of that strike. So I don't think the strike is enough of a reason to be like, oh, that's why it's late. Ashley Banks says Captain America might do $1 billion. We'll see. I wouldn't bet money on that, to be honest. Josh says I'm going to be over 30 when the Batman trilogy finishes. Yeah, same. That's how long these movies are taking to come out. Denisha Clower says they're taking too long. Batman is not that guy for it to be delayed for a whole year. It's the same thing when it comes to Batman. Yeah, they're taking too long. No, they're taking too long considering they don't even have a script. Yeah, if they had a script, or at least even a second draft of a script by now, I'd be like, okay, maybe they're about to go into filming and at least he's been writing. But for them to not even have a first draft of a script, not even a first draft, that just tells me that, honestly, he's just not in a rush. Truly. Maybe there's something else going on, but, I feel like that's a bit ridiculous. But anyway, moving on. Hold on. Is the next one the Batman? You know what? I'm going to skip to Superman just to keep with the DC theme. So, let's talk about the Superman trailer. Have you guys all seen the Superman trailer? I'm about to go break it down pretty slowly because there's a lot to talk about here. But I want to know what your guys' immediate first impressions were on this trailer after you watched it. Did you like it? Are you excited now? Was this not what you were expecting? Do you think this movie will actually be a hit? Because this movie has to be a hit. Even James Gunn himself said, a lot's riding on this film. If this movie doesn't hit, then that, puts his entire DC universe in jeopardy. So, this movie has to be successful. Do you think this trailer was good enough or impactful enough to put it up in a position of success, basically? Do you think this was a good enough trailer that this could lead to the movie being a hit? What are your thoughts here? And then I'll get into the actual breakdown and I'll tell you my thoughts. Oh, sorry. Pressed the wrong thing. Still getting used to this. All right. Ashley thinks Superman is going to be amazing. Okay, Tyler loved the trailer. Sim Duck here thinks it looks good. Okay, so, oh no, Gray for Harmony has doubts. I was about to say everyone thinks it looks good, but maybe not. Ashley says we finally got a real Superman film that's back to the comics roots. Yes, I'm happy about that. Josh says David Cornsweet is going to be phenomenal as Superman. I think this is going to be DC's biggest hit in years as it's getting more views than Man of Steel. That's true. Although, the biggest hit in years is a very low bar. Remember, they haven't had a movie that's done better than Black Adam since Black Adam. So the bar is pretty low for the highest grossing DC movie in years. So let's just say that. Tanisha says you haven't recovered from Batman versus Superman. That movie was pretty bad. I mean, I think the DC universe is honestly still affected by how bad that movie was. Yeah, I was surprised by Crypto as well. Ethereal Dragon needs another trailer. Okay, Monica says it looks promising. So I'm seeing some mixed reviews, but I'm thinking mixed to positive, which I think is a good sign. So let's get into the trailer. So it starts off, okay, let's just talk about the first shot, because I know it's just ice, but like something that I didn't immediately like, and I tweeted about it, there's some weird blue filter over this movie that I really do not like. I'm not even talking about like anything else about this movie other than how it visually looks. There's like a very weird, harsh blue filter over this movie that I actually do not like. And you can just tell even here in this one shot where like the ice, there's such harsh shadows on the ice and it looks weird, and I just don't like how it looks. And even later on in the trailer, you'll see that like even Lois's hair has like a blue tinge to it. Like, I don't get that choice creatively. I think it looks bad. But thankfully there's enough positive in this trailer that I'm still interested in the movie. But let's move on. So anyway, it opens up with Superman in the ice. He kind of hits the ice. He's, something happened where he's now like all bloodied and bruised, and he's just sitting there. I actually like how he's laying there in the ice. It looks like a fetal position. And the reason why I like that is because I feel like I could be wrong, but just based on this trailer, it looks like James is going for like a very relatable Superman. Like, I feel like where Zack Snyder wanted to make Superman a god, I feel like James Gunn is making Superman more of like a relatable guy that just happens to have massive powers, which is like very much like the MCU usually treats its superheroes. Like, for the longest time, DC was all about like turning their superheroes into gods. Whereas the MCU was like, let's turn regular people into, these superhero people. But they're not gods, they're just regular people with powers. This feels like James is going the MCU approach, and I know I'm reading a lot into this. But I feel like James is, and plus with other things I've seen in this trailer, I feel like James is going with that latter approach, the MCU approach, where Kal-El is like, kind of almost like a regular guy who just happens to have these unbelievable powers. And I get that from this shot, just from his like being in such a fetal position, like he's almost like he's a wounded baby. Like, we always see like Superman as just the epitome of strength. So I think it's very interesting that he seems like very much not strong here. Like, he bleeds. Like, as Batman once asked, do you bleed? And apparently he does. And I like that they open that with him bleeding, because it shows, like, right away, this is going to be a very human Superman, which personally I really like. So I actually really like how he's, like, in this fetal position here. Anyway, so then we get to see his Clark Kent. He's like a bumbling fool with the Gen Z broccoli haircut. I think this is going to age the movie really badly. I don't like the hair because I think it's such like a current in the moment trend, but I think it's going to age horribly in just a few years. So I wouldn't have gone with this hair choice personally, because I feel like it will date the film. It's too much of a modern style. But I do like how he's kind of like a bumbling fool. This is why I say I think that they're going for like a very human Clark Kent, a very human Superman. Just because it seems like when he is Clark Kent, that is who he really is. It's not just a disguise. And I like that about him. I like that he just seems like a normal guy, and then when he puts on this Superman suit, he's able to just like go and save people. It's almost like I would almost describe this as like, it's like the Spider-Man version of Superman. And if you love Spider-Man like I do, I really like that take. Like, and the reason why I use Spider-Man as a comparison, because if you imagine, like, go back to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and you know how his Peter Parker was a super big dweeb, a super big nerd. No one in his life would believe that he was a Superman, or he was a superhero, just because he was such a dork as a human. But he had all these incredible powers and he just wanted to save people. I feel like that's the direction they're going with this character, and I really like that. So I kind of like how he's acting here. But I've said a lot so far. What are your thoughts on this trailer so far? This Superman looks like it's made for people like me. Same here, same here. Josh says, I like that he looks so different from Clark Kent and Superman, as it looks much better when it's usually a disguise when it's a different persona. Yeah, I do think he looks very different as Clark Kent than Superman. Like, the hair really changes his whole look quite a bit. I do agree. Lewis says, the thing is, though, Superman has always been a character that's supposed to be relatable. People just haven't successfully adapted that onto the big screen. Zack Snyder. Yeah, that's what I always wanted from Superman, to be honest. Like, I like the aw shucks, I just want to help people, like, aspect of Superman. Like, he's supposed to be a symbol of hope. And the main thing that I could not stand about Henry Cavill's Superman, and I don't even blame Henry Cavill for this, I blame Zack Snyder, is that he was just always in a bad mood. He was kind of a jerk. He was mopey. He, like, I don't know, like, he was not hopeful. Like, for the symbol on his chest to mean hope, the dude was, like, the least hopeful dude ever. He was a doomer. He was a moody, like, guy that kind of had some anger issues. Like, I don't understand. Part of the reason why I didn't like Batman v Superman was because, like, Superman was just evil the whole time. Like, that's, like, not what people like about the character. Like, I just feel like, honestly, I feel like Zack Snyder got the character entirely wrong. So, I'm glad that James Gunn is doing something very different. Ethereal Dragon also hates the hair. Yeah, Madonna hates the hair. Yeah, I don't like the hair either. Miss Player says, I feel so mixed. We finally have a movie that is accurate cast rather than changing things. There is some diversity in this film, but yeah, I don't think it would have made sense to try to, like, race swap or gender swap Superman. I think he's very much written to be like the archetype of a white dude. Josh says Superman kept putting civilians at risk while this Superman is saving people. Exactly, Josh. That's why I love in this very trailer we get to see him saving someone. Something I feel like we never got to see from Henry Cavill. Like, Superman's supposed to save people. Where was the saving that Henry Cavill was doing? But anyway. Let's get back to this. So anyway, we have Clark Kent and his broccoli haircut. And then we get to see a bit of the Daily Planet. I like the way the Daily Planet looks here. It looks cool. Again, I like that he's bleeding. I like that he's very, like, human. I like that he's not portrayed as a god like Zack Snyder tried to portray him. I like that about him. And then we get to see Crypto. Well, I actually like Crypto. I think that's a really smart idea to bring in the dog. As someone who has a dog, as you know, I love the dog. So, dog is a winner for me. I like the way that the inside of the Daily Planet really looks. I think looks very posh. Also, I really, 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 really love Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I love Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I think she's fantastic in that. But even before the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, my first introduction to Rachel Brosnahan was actually in House of Cards. Do you guys remember the Netflix show House of Cards with Kevin Spacey? She was in that as a small role. She actually played... Well, she was a prostitute, but then, like, she changed. But I really liked her in that movie. She became like one of my favorite characters on that show. And then ever since that show, I've been like a Rachel Brosnahan fan. So when I saw Mrs. Maisel, I thought it was great. When she was cast as Lois Lane, I was like, oh my god, that's perfect casting. So she looks great. I love this little vest that she's wearing. I just love her outfits. But again, you can kind of see what I mean when I say like even her hair has this weird bluish tint. I don't understand why they went for this weird filter. I really don't like it. At all. And yeah, I like his Clark Kent. I like how he's, kind of a nerd, as he should be. I like that. I just really don't like the haircut. But anyway, it's interesting that they used from the director of Guardians. Like, you'd think he would say, like, from the director of the Suicide Squad, since that's a DC movie, but whatever. I like the farm. I like how very Americana it looks. I like this shot here. I think this shot looks good. I actually like his hair more here when it's messy than when it was, like, neat. Like, for me, this just works better for him, personally. But, I don't know. I'm liking the vibes here. I think they're probably going to go hard trying to promote this movie to, like, middle America, just because I feel like, A, this movie needs to do really well with everyone, but also because I feel like this movie could appeal to middle America, so I think they're probably going to lean into that hard. But anyway, moving on. So, yes, we finally get to see Crypto. I love the little doggy. He's so cute. I love that he drags him. I have a feeling this scene in the movie is actually going to be, like, really heartwarming. Even though we've seen a lot of it from the trailer, I feel like it's going to hit harder once we know the context. That's just my guess anyway. And this is the shot. This is the shot I love. This is my favorite shot in the trailer. I love that he's saving this girl. I love that, like, there's already a focus on Superman saving people. It shouldn't be, like, a surprise because it's Superman. But, like, when's the last time we seen Superman save someone? I think the only time Henry Cavill Superman saved someone was when he snapped Zod's neck. And it was like a very violent act that was very controversial at the time. So I'm just glad that he's actually back to like being the good hero. This is why I say like this looks like this is like the Spider-Man version of this character in the sense that I think he comes across as just like a do-gooder who actually just wants to help people. Not just like some alien god who doesn't understand humans, which is how Zack Snyder portrayed him, and I hated that. I like that he just seems like a good guy that wants to help people, which is what Superman should be, in my opinion. So I love this shot. Although I don't understand why this girl was just chilling. Like, did she not hear this giant kaiju behind her? Like, I'm a little confused by this girl. Also, hate the coloring. I know I keep talking about coloring a lot in movies, but, like, I don't know what's going on. Because I'm not the only one who's noticed it. You know, a lot of other people on Twitter talked about it, too. But the color grading in movies lately, what the hell is going on? I feel like we need better color graders, or like, why can't we have movies just look like how they used to? Why do they look like this now? This just looks so visually off to me. Like, visually, like, I actually like the content of what's happening. But visually, I do not like the way it looks at all. That's probably my least favorite part about this movie so far, is, like, how it looks visually. Yeah, Madonna agrees. Ashley says, why is that girl being so dumb? I have no idea. No idea. But anyway, going back to the trailer. So, oh yeah, we get to see more of Lex. I love Nicholas Hoult, by the way. I love Nicholas Hoult. I've been a Nicholas Hoult fan since Skins. Since his early days with Skins. I loved Skins. And he was great in that, by the way. There's a scene in season 2 of Skins where he has, like, he just got into an accident or something, and he's, like, physically impaired, at least temporarily. And there's a scene at the dinner table with his family where he's just, like, crying but in pain, and, like, I just remember that seen visually, because I remember thinking, oh wow, this dude's an amazing actor. Like, I remember thinking that at the time, and I was like hoping that his career would like go off and like do big things. And I'm so happy that that actually happened, because he's been in a lot since then. So I'm like, I feel like I've been following this dude his entire career. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. But yeah, I really like Nicholas Hoult. I'm really happy for him. This is like probably the biggest role he's landed ever. And he's talked a lot about how his weak chin has kept him from a lot of leading roles. So I'm glad that he finally got a big role somewhere. I know he wanted to be Superman, but that was never going to happen. I think he's a much better Lex, for sure. I like the way the building looks. Looks very cool. So I don't like the color grading. I think the filter looks weird. I love this shot. I think this shot looks very Bond. Very, very cool. I like the smoke in the background. I think it looks neat. This shot, I don't know what the heck is going on here, but I think it looks a little weird. Like, it just looks like, I don't know, too shiny, too clean. I don't know about this shot. Maybe in context it'll make sense, but I just think visually, again, it looks very weird. Although this, I think this is my favorite moment in the trailer. I know I said the saving the girl was my favorite, but I actually think it's this moment. It's the moment where this little kid puts the Superman flag in the air, and he starts, like, praying. He's like, Superman, Superman, Superman. I feel like this is the kind of stuff I like about Superman. You know, the idea that he's this symbol of hope, that like when all seems lost, you could just start praying to Superman and hope that he'll come and save you, and then he does. I love this kind of stuff. I bet I'll probably tear up when I see this in theaters, because this kind of stuff tends to get to me. But I thought the kid like going Superman, Superman over and over again was really touching. That was I think this is my favorite part of the trailer. And then we see here, okay, so there's a couple of things that I want to talk about here. Firstly, he does look dramatically different as Superman. Like, this does not look like the same man as Clark Kent. So, like, the hair really does change a lot. And I actually think he looks slightly better as Clark Kent, which is interesting. But anyway, someone is throwing something at his head. I don't know why people hate him so much. Like, look at everyone's face. Like, they're all, like, so mad at him. I don't know what he did. So that's interesting. And then he's, like, upset or something, or praying. I'm not sure. But obviously something's going down. And then we have this dude who looks, let's just say, he looks very dumb. I know it's comics accurate, but I don't care. He looks dumb. I don't like this look. I don't like the hair. I think this is like classic James Gunn, though. This kind of reminds me of how like Nathan Fillion looked in Guardians 3, in the sense that it's just like stupid for being stupid looking. Yeah, I don't like this look at all. That's all I'm gonna say. We see a bit of Hawkgirl. I think Hawkgirl looks better. I think she looks a lot better. And then there's a kaiju. I don't know why that's happening. It's very weird, because parts of this trailer actually seem very grounded. Like the scenes of Clark with his father on the farm seem very grounded. Like even him in the ice seemed very grounded. And then you get like these weird fantastical moments with a giant kaiju and people flying around, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a James Gunn film. He just can't help himself. He just cannot help himself. I like this shot. Don't know what's going on in the background, but this is like the one shot in the film or the trailer that I actually think looks good visually. I really don't like the way this movie looks. I'm trying to get over it. I like their chemistry though. Even just this one shot, like I believe their relationship way more than I ever believed Amy Adams and Henry Cavill. They had negative chemistry. Anyway, there's also a robot, and he's like upset over a robot, so I don't know what that's about. And then this dude, buildings are falling. I hope this isn't another situation where like more people are died in this fight than like he is able to save, because that was another criticism with Man of Steel, how they were just like flying through all these buildings and it seemed like people would be dying. You know, I hope that's not happening here. I hope these buildings are empty. I like this shot of Lex. I'm excited for Nicholas Hoult in this role. I think he looks like he's doing a good job. Again, we get to that kid again who's like crying for Superman. I already know I'm gonna be crying in this scene. I already know it. And I love the little dog. It's such a good dog. And now we're in like a football field. See, this is very much a pro-Americana kind of movie. Like, I have a feeling that I think Middle America, if this movie does well, I think it'll be because Middle America showed up for it. I really do. Oh, this is nice. I like them flying and kissing in the air. That's nice. And then the flying shot going in the end. And then, yeah, that's it. They didn't actually have the title card for Superman, which I thought was weird. They just cut to DC Studios. Like, there's no actual title for Superman. I don't know if I would have done that. That's quite a bold choice. Yeah, I don't know why they did that. I wouldn't have done that. But anyway, overall, I thought it was a good trailer, actually. I thought it was a good trailer. I like how they're humanizing Superman. I like how they're making him like the actual symbol of hope, just someone who wants to like help people. I just visually, I don't like how it looks. That's my biggest problem. But what did you guys think of the trailer now that I've actually like broke it down? Ashley says blue and yellow, blue and yellow. Yeah, it's like people, it's so funny. I saw some people like talking about like, oh, the movie's too saturated. I saw some people saying the movie's not saturated enough. But I think the issue is that it is hyper saturated, but like only two colors. It's like blue and orange. That's like the only two colors that existed in this movie. I don't get it. Lewis says, I thought James Gunn said it was just going to be called Superman. Yeah, it is. But the title card wasn't there. Some duck here says, I think they gave it the Wicked treatment. I think Wicked looks better than this, to be honest. I really don't like the filter on this movie. Josh says, Superman gives me more hope in the DCU, and I'm excited to see it along with Supergirl. I am too. And the reason why I'm actually excited for Supergirl is because I really liked the girl who played Rhaenyra in House of the Dragon Season 1. I actually thought I think she's a better Rhaenyra than Emma Darcy, to be honest. I kind of wish she had stayed on to just play Rhaenyra as an older person. But anyway, she's the reason why I'm excited for Supergirl. Oh, I'm selling you on this movie? Great. I'm excited. I'm glad. Ethereal Dragon says, people need to stop treating Middle America as lesser than the coastal states. And this is coming from a guy living in New York. When did I ever treat the Middle America as lesser than? I said if Middle America shows up for this movie, then it'll be successful. That's what I said. There is no disrespect in that. The Spyro fan says, love the blue colors in the movie. It's very lovely to look at, especially the snow. Well, I'm glad that we all have varying opinions because I very much disagree. Sorry. Bottle just dropped. Sorry you had to hear that. Millie Alcock, that's the girl. I always forget her name, but like I kind of miss her on that show. I honestly think season 2 missed her. I think part of what made season 1 so successful was honestly Millie Alcock in the beginning. I think there's been no one, this is a side tangent, I know, but there's been no one that, like really in the cast for House of the Dragon that's like popped off and become a fan favorite in the same way that Game of Thrones had a ton of people that became fan favorites. The only person that even came close was Millie Alcock, and she was only in a few episodes. So, yeah. Josh Loves Movies says Superman is the main focus, the extra heroes are just supporting characters. That's good. I do hope that they keep the focus on just Superman. Yes, it definitely needs to be a hit. I think, to be honest, I think this is overall a very muted trailer. Like, I feel like there weren't too many money shots, but good news for James Gunn. Doesn't matter, because apparently it did have a massive impact. The trailer got 22.5 million views in the first 24 hours on DC's YouTube channel. That's really good. That's actually really impressive. Now, trailer views don't always correlate to a movie actually being successful, so that doesn't mean it's going to be a $1 billion hit. There's been a lot of movies where, like, the trailers were amazing and they got a lot of views, but, like, no one saw the film. So this doesn't mean a whole lot, but it does mean that there is some interest there. So that's encouraging, at least. I think that it's very encouraging, and I think for the most part, I think the reaction to the trailer was positive. Yeah, there were some negatives, like I said, I've seen a lot of people agree with me that I don't like how it looks. But like the actual content of what's there, I think looks promising. So if Superman is a hit, I feel like it's possible. This trailer gives me hope that this movie could be a hit. I think there's enough here that I can see audiences really liking this movie. So I think there's some hope. I think the movie itself is a symbol of hope for James Gunn. I think it's possible. Josh says you think Superman is going to be the biggest DC hit since Batman and Wonder Woman. Maybe. I mean, those movies made like what? At least 700 million? That's a pretty high bar for a DC movie these days, but if the word of mouth is really, really strong, then maybe. I mean, the last Guardians movie made over 700 million, so Gunn has the audience potential. He just needs everyone who saw his Guardians movies to go see the Superman movie. Yeah, exactly. Dane says Joker 2 got over 30 million views. That's why I don't always give you like trailer view counts and stuff like that, because to be honest, there isn't like much of a correlation. But I think the reason why I brought this up is because it at least shows some interest there. It could have been a lot lower. So I think that's surprising, at least, that there is some interest here. But anyway, let's move on. So Squid Game Season 2 is out. Ain't no one talking about it. It's not trending. Do you guys remember the first Squid Game season? Like, I feel like everyone was talking about it on social media for like 2 weeks. And then for this movie, it's like, this season, it's like no one cares anymore. And that's not good, because there's also going to be a season 3. And I feel like, the audience, I don't think the audience numbers are out yet, or at least I haven't checked them. But I have a feeling that the audience is significantly lower this time around, because there's just not as much like hype or interest online. I do want to watch Squid Game. Again, I haven't had time for anything other than like, turkey legs and butterbeer, but I will eventually get around to this. In fact, probably this week. Did you guys watch Squid Game Season 2? Did you like it? Do you understand why it's got a muted reaction? Like, are you surprised by the lack of hype? Has anyone even tried this season? Prototype says you forgot about this. A lot of you didn't even know they made a second season. That's not good. Cal says, I just watched it. They made you wait 3 years for half a season. Oh, no! Oh, that sucks. That makes me like less interested in it now. Okay, Angie says you see Squid Games all over your For You page. So maybe it's just my algorithm is not like giving me Squid Game content at all. Who knows? Rob says you don't think people wanted a season 2. Yeah, I was good with just the season 1, to be honest. It was a solid season 1. Yeah, and they're trying to do an English remake. I don't think they need to do that either. I think Squid Game was just meant to be like a very successful one-season thing, and then they're just trying to like turn it into a cinematic universe, and I'm just like, I don't think it needs that. But anyway, moving on. So, okay. Okay, Christopher Nolan is adapting the Odyssey. Now, this is about to be the most hyped I am for a Christopher Nolan movie in a long time. Let me tell you, the last time I was actually interested in the subject matter of a Christopher Nolan film was Interstellar, because I love space. But then after that, he did Dunkirk, which I only cared about because Harry Styles was in it. Yes, I know. And then he did, I didn't really actually care about the subject matter of Dunkirk at all. Like, it didn't interest me. And then on top of that, he did Tenet, which I actually think Tenet is his worst movie. I don't think that movie is very good at all. I think some people might like it, but I think just generally agreed upon that it's kind of a weak movie for him. I didn't like that movie. And then, as you guys know, I was not a huge fan of Oppenheimer. So I understand that, like, on a technical basis, Oppenheimer is like a well-made movie. I understand why it got all the awards it did and all that. But personally, and I saw it twice, I saw it a second time just to make sure that I really didn't like it, because it got so much hype, so much love. I was like, what am I missing? So I went to go see it a second time, and I liked it about just as much. It's not a movie for me. And I think a large part of it is just the subject matter. It doesn't interest me at all. But this, the Odyssey, now I'm very interested. Now I'm hyped. Now I feel like I can be part of the Nolan hype again, because he's doing a movie that actually interests me. Because for a long time, he was just doing anything. Like, there were a lot of, like rumors about what this movie could be, what his next project could be, and, like, one of the rumors was that it was going to be about attack helicopters or rescue helicopters, something like that, just a movie about helicopters or something. And I was like, why can't he make a movie that actually interests me? Like he used to. And then he just, like, started making movies about all this niche stuff, and, like, I was getting very, like, I was worried it was going to be some helicopter movie, and I was going to be, it was another Nolan film that I just wasn't going to care for. But no, The Odyssey. I loved The Odyssey. I took a Greek mythology class in college, and we had to read The Odyssey, and it's an incredible story. If you don't know The Odyssey, I truly recommend just catching up on it, reading it. I'm sure you can read the Spark Notes or something. I don't know. But it's a notable and, like, one of the most iconic stories ever told for a reason. It's a really good story. So to see someone like Christopher Nolan tackle it, I think that's actually going to be an incredible film. I think this could be a really interesting, like, exciting movie, like an epic, like a true, like, Ben-Hur kind of epic. And that excites me. That really excites me. So it's described as a mythic action epic that follows the tale of Odysseus and his 10-year journey home after the Trojan War. So far, the cast stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Matt Damon, Lupita Nyong'o, and Robert Pattinson. And more, by the way. Apparently, there are even other big names that are attached to this that just haven't been announced yet. So I think this is going to be like a massive cast. A cast? Oh my god, am I from Boston? Cast. This is a really big cast. Like huge names too. I love that Tom Holland and Zendaya are going to be acting together. I think that's cool. I love Lupita Nyong'o's in this. I love her. I love Robert Pattinson. So I'm excited by this cast. I'm excited by this story. I think Christopher Nolan could do something really cool and epic with this. So I'm super hyped for this movie. This is the first Nolan movie since Interstellar where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, a movie for me. Nice. But what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to this movie? Are you familiar with The Odyssey? What do you think? Fake Mustache says this movie will become a huge hit. I think so. I think he has so much goodwill pent up, and this is such a well-known story with such a well-known cast. I can't imagine this movie not being a hit. Oh, DeBoy, you're iffy about the cast. Interesting. Miss Player says, can we see the part where Odysseus actually got swallowed by Charybdis rather than he's saved by a random tree? I don't know if he's going to make any changes or not. I have no idea what he's going to do. And it feels weird because I feel like this is the first Christopher Nolan film where time is not an element. Or maybe it kind of is because, like, he's trying to get home, but, like, time is usually a huge theme in all of his movies, and it's not really, like, a huge theme in The Odyssey, so that's a little different. Are you guys as excited for this as me, or are you guys just like, you don't care? I think Calypso's definitely going to be in it. Okay, Lewis thinks you think this will be bigger than Oppenheimer. Wilfred says, I thought he was making a vampire movie. That was one of the rumors. Now I feel like he was purposely throwing out fake rumors so people wouldn't know what he was actually doing. I kind of feel like that's what that was. I feel like he started those rumors, to be honest. That's my guess. Prototype says, I don't know how you can live in an age filled with Greek mythology retellings and not know the Odyssey. Apparently, a lot of people had never heard of it, which is surprising. Although I do think the Soups was rage baiting. I think a lot of people fell for that rage bait. I don't think he actually hadn't heard of it. I think he saw an opportunity and took it, and boy, did that pay out for him. Literally. Ashley Banks says nobody cares about the subject matter of any of these Christopher Nolan movies. He makes movies for boomers and Gen X. That's not true. Millennials love him because we grew up with his Batman films. Millennials love Christopher Nolan. I don't know about Gen Z, but I know millennials. He's definitely got them too. Josh says, I think Chris Nolan is going to make sure the Odyssey is way better than Gladiator 2. Well, I sure hope so. Prototype says, time is a theme, though. Odyssey spends 3 days on an island, but actually spends a bunch of years on that island. Okay, I can see him really, tying in that time theme. I can see it. You've never heard of the Odyssey? You know what? I actually don't find that too surprising, because I never had to read it until I went to college. And the only reason I had to read it in college was specifically because I took a Greek mythology class. It was never required reading when I was in high school. So I can see that. I don't think this is required reading everywhere, to be honest. Yeah, I think that when the trailer drops, I think this is going to be one of those big trailers that everyone wants to see. So I think this is going to be a huge movie. Anyway, apparently they're basically giving him a blank check, which I'm not surprised by. This will be his most expensive movie ever. Keep in mind that his previous most expensive movie was The Rise of Skywalker. No, he did not make that movie. The Dark Knight Rises. The budget for that movie was $250 million. So that means this movie is going to cost more than $250 million. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's significantly more than that. Like I said, I feel like Universal's essentially going to give him a blank check. Because after he made a biopic make almost $1 billion. I am quite certain only he and James Cameron are the only two directors on this planet that can convince that many people to go see a biopic. Unless it's Queen, apparently. I keep forgetting Queen made almost $1 billion. But people really like Bohemian Rhapsody. But anyway, Chris, this is basically a blank check, believe me. But anyway, it's coming out in 2026, which is pretty soon. I like how quickly he can get his movies out. I feel like Matt Reeves should be taking notes. We're gonna get 2 Christopher Nolan movies in the span before we get freaking the second Batman movie, by the way. Just take that in. Just take that in. 2 Christopher Nolan movies before we get the second Batman. Does that convince any of you that he's taking too long? Because I think that's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. So, I'm only gonna go over this briefly because, to be honest, for the most part, I don't care about this. But I do want to update this story because I did talk about it earlier. So, do you guys remember a couple of months ago, Blake Lively and her director for this movie that she did were in a feud because she accused him of just not being a great person, but she refused to give any specifics at the time. And then he basically smeared her. He hired the same PR campaign or PR office as Johnny Depp. And with the help of that team, he just smeared her to no end on the internet, and it worked. People really turned off from Blake Lively. I feel like they kind of already didn't like her, and then this thing just gave people a reason to not like her. Because even the most progressive people were not on her side, and usually they're the first to want to stand up for a woman, but even in this situation they were F Blake Lively. So I think she has a huge likability problem. I think that might be something she should look at because I feel like that's part of why this happened. But anyway, she has filed a lawsuit against her It Ends With Us co-star and director for sexual harassment and launching a smear campaign against her. And she has the receipts. Oh boy, does she have the receipts. So, there were text messages that had been revealed, allegedly showing Justin Baldoni and his legal team fabricating a smear campaign against Blake Lively during the It Ends With Us drama. And I'm not going to read all these text messages here. But basically, he is like bragging about the fact that everyone's just buying all these lies that he's spreading about her, and like he's like, oh yeah, even Reddit's like on our side. Like, it's like cartoonishly evil tweets. I keep saying tweets, but text messages. They're like cartoonishly evil, honestly. He's like, oh yes, our plan to smear her is working. It's like, well, yeah, it clearly did. But obviously these text messages are pretty damning. But anyway, a lot of people have come to her defense. Like, the cast has come to her defense. The author came to her defense. Even CAA came to her defense. And now Sony Pictures is coming to her defense. Apparently, they said, we have previously expressed our support for Blake in connection with her work and for the film. We fully and firmly reiterate that support today. I also believe Baldoni was dropped from his agency. So, like, this has been a pretty big deal if you care at all about these C-list celebrities. I'm sorry, I don't personally really care about this story, but, like, I just think it's interesting from, like, a PR standpoint, because, like, I have a lot on my table. I didn't have time to, like, properly prepare, because it took me so long to set up my new computer, so if you hear things drop, I'm sorry. But anyway, thankfully nothing cracked, which is actually incredible. But anyway, it's just interesting. I just find all of this really interesting from a PR perspective, of like how like narratives can form even without a bunch of facts, and like it doesn't even really matter what's true. It just matters what story you can get going. Because the fact that like Johnny Depp was successfully able to do the smear campaign against Amber Heard, and freaking Joe Jonas tried to do it for Sophie Turner, but that backfired on him. And then, like, this Baldoni guy tried to do it for Blake Lively. Like, clearly there's, like, a playbook of if a woman accuses you of, you know, being terrible, then just hire this terrible PR company to smear her, even though it might just be a bunch of lies. And it keeps working, unless you're Sophie Turner, which, again, I think kind of adds to the whole, like, I think Blake Lively just might have a likability problem, because people really love Sophie Turner, which is why I don't think it worked for her. But yeah, this is just, I don't think this is going to end up how Blake Lively wants this to go. I feel like people still don't like her, even though they might believe her now. I still feel like she's not going to like suddenly have a bunch of people cheering for her. I don't know what it is. I think it might be just like her off-screen persona. I think it might be maybe some of her like her Gossip Girl character. Maybe people just see her as like her Gossip Girl character. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of like rumors that she's not so nice of a person. So I think that's probably part of it. But anyway, I just think that that's interesting that this story kind of had a conclusion. Although I think Baldoni's trying to fight back, so maybe this isn't over yet. But yeah, I mean, from a PR perspective, this is kind of an interesting story. Have you guys been following this at all? What do you guys think about this whole situation? Are you on Blake's side, or are you on Baldoni's side? What do you think? Being a celebrity is scary. Yeah, it's very scary. Josh says there's set videos of Justin verbally berating Blake Lively while filming this movie. Yeah, I know. I mean, she has the receipts. She's like, I don't think anyone can say Baldoni is like completely innocent and like this, you know, this innocent angel or whatever. Like, I think there was definitely some abuse going down on that set for sure. Rob says that's when you play the Ryan Reynolds card, but like she has Ryan Reynolds in her pocket and he did not help her. And honestly, I feel like honestly, to be honest, I feel like Ryan Reynolds is starting to get people turned off from him. I feel like he's been in too many movies. He's overexposed. If it weren't for Deadpool, I feel like people would have been done with him. So I don't know if, honestly, I don't know if he's that well beloved either. I feel like Ryan Reynolds is slowly going the way of The Rock, where he starts off as this like very beloved actor, but then people start to just get so sick of him, they start turning on him. I feel like Ryan Reynolds is very close to getting The Rocked. He's about to get rocked, basically. That's my prediction for 2025. Josh says, the most disturbing thing is Justin barging into Blake Lively's trailer unannounced while she was breastfeeding her newborn baby. Oh, that's terrible. I didn't even know about that one. That's terrible. Yeah. Apparently, Justin Baldoni has also had, like, terrible accusations on previous things that he's worked on, so he just seems like a generally terrible guy. Oh, Rob says Justin just announced he's countersuing. Oh, Lord. How did... No one... I mean, the movie actually did moderately well. But, like, now the drama behind the scenes of this film has completely overshadowed the success of the movie. Like, no one's even actually talking about the movie. They're just talking about the drama. Oof. This is just bad for everyone involved, honestly. Great for Harmony says he's becoming a Nicolas Cage. See, I feel like Nicolas Cage will always be iconic. I don't know. I feel like Ryan Reynolds wishes he could be Nicolas Cage. I actually disagree with that. Du Bois says he'll keep that term in mind. Okay. But anyway, this story, I guess, is ongoing. This is not the end. We'll see what Blake Lively decides to do about this, or Baldoni, or whatever. But yeah, I guess it's not over. But anyway, so Arcane has multiple spin-offs in active development. So some of the ones that we are developing right now are completely new characters from our IP, and others are a continuation of Arcane. I'm really happy to see that they're making more of Arcane. That's great. However, it doesn't sound like the end goal of the whole point of making the show was that successful. So as you guys know, Arcane is based off of the game League of Legends, which is, the show is wildly different from the game, by the way. And the whole reason that the show exists is because League of Legends wanted to make a show that would convince people to go play the game. That's literally why this show exists. But apparently that didn't really work, because a lot of people were convinced after watching Arcane to create League of Legends accounts, but most don't end up sticking around. And I'm actually one of those people. After the first season of Arcane, I was like, oh, maybe I should go check out League of Legends. Maybe, I don't know, I really like this show. Let me go check out the game. I downloaded the game. I played like maybe 10 minutes of it, and I never picked it up again. It's nothing like the show. The characters aren't anything similar. The art style isn't even similar. The show almost has nothing to do with the game except for names. Like, I can understand why people would not stick around, because I did not stick around. So I feel like if League of Legends wants to continue making, like, just amazing shows, like, from an artistic perspective, I'm like, yes, please keep making more Arcanes, please. However, from a business perspective, I'm like, maybe make your shows a little bit more like your game so people aren't so disappointed when they actually download the game. Because I was very disappointed. I was like, what the heck is this? So yeah, I don't know. Have you guys actually played League of Legends? What do you guys think of this? Oh god, some duck here says you've never even played League of Legends, only seen Arcane. I feel like that's most people who have watched the show, actually. Yeah, the budgets are too expensive. Yeah, I agree. It's one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. That's true. Anyway, we don't have to spend too much time on this. I just thought that was interesting because I was like, yes, this was also me. I also made an account and then did not stick around because the game is nowhere near as good as the show. So there's a new documentary in the works for Luigi Mangione. And it's going to be done by Oscar-winning filmmaker Alex Gibney, who's developing the doc. I think this could be a really big hit. I mean, this dude has a fan base. He has a following. I think this has been one of the biggest stories of the year. If they really strike while the iron's hot, I think this could be a huge documentary. I can see this being like as big as like some of the like Ryan Murphy like true crime shows that he does. Like I feel like it could be that kind of like big water cooler kind of documentary. I actually hope it's more of a show, not just a movie, but we'll see. Do you guys think people would actually watch this? I feel like this is a big enough story that I think this could actually do like decently well. Would you guys watch this? Would you be interested? Be honest. Be honest. This is a safe space. Shawnee says this is crazy. Oh my god, Calexis! Oh, I knew y'all would be out of pocket. I know, this is very soon, right? He's already getting a movie. This player says, I can't believe they're making a documentary of a person that we barely know his existence until now. I mean, yes, that's true, but also, like, Hollywood does this frequently. Like, as soon as they get a big story, they're like, yes, must work on a documentary for it. Where's the brother Mario? You guys are so funny. Potato Girl says, I think it could be the story. It isn't really wrapped up yet. Yeah, that's why I kind of hope that this documentary doesn't come out too soon, because we don't really know, like, what's going to happen with him in court, and they want to throw, like, the death penalty at him. Like, we don't know how his story is going to end yet, so I do think it might be a little too soon for a documentary, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get an ending to this soon. Who knows? Okay, so Du Bois is not interested. I do think this will turn some people off. Some people will be like, oh, this is glorifying him. But then some people will be like, oh, this is glorifying him. So it just depends on which side you're on. Lewis says, aren't we supposed to still be getting a documentary about the Ocean Gate submarine? Oh, yeah. I hope we do get that. That sounds interesting. But anyway, moving on. So they're also getting another scary movie. It's coming out in 2026. The Wayans brothers are currently developing the film. I'm very excited about this, actually. I think I like movies that make fun of scary movies more than I like scary movies. Just because there's a lot to make fun of. And I feel like this could be done really well for the modern era. Like, I don't know which movies they would make fun of. Like, do you guys have any ideas about which movies specifically they might, like, pull? I feel like The Conjuring might be in there. Do you think they might do something with The Substance? I don't know. But anyway, I'm excited for this. Would you guys want to see more scary movies? Are you interested in this? What are your thoughts? Have you guys even seen the scary movies? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of people are surprised but happy. Josh says, I will be excited for Scary Movie 6 when they bring Anna Faris and Regina Hall back. Oh yeah, of course, they have to be back, right? They have to. Miss Player says, I watched Scary Movie 5 in theaters. Biggest mistake of my life. Alongside Minions and Beauty and the Beast remake. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope it's less gross. I'm just hoping that it's funny. I just want it to be funny. That's all I care about. That's literally all I care about. Just be funny, be relevant, poke fun at the very obvious things you could poke fun about modern day movies. Just, I feel like there's a lot of material that they could work with for this to actually be good. So I have my fingers crossed. What do you guys think? Josh says, I heard they're gonna do a Terrifier parody. Oh. Have enough people seen Terrifier? Will they get that? I thought Terrifier was like a indie cult darling. It's not like a mainstream franchise. But that could be interesting regardless. I just hope they do some more like known stuff too. But anyway, it could be good. It could be good. And then the last thing for today, thank you all for watching this very long live stream. I warned you it would be long. I told you it'd be long. And I cut stuff, by the way. Like, there was a lot of other stuff I could have added, but I was like, this is going to be too long. So last thing. There's going to be a Malcolm in the Middle revival series on Disney+. So Frankie Muniz, Bryan Cranston, and Jane Kaczmarek are all coming back. So I'm excited for this, although I really want all the brothers to come back, but I don't think that's likely, especially since the actor who played Dewey, he kind of was very open about the fact that this was not a good time in his life. Unfortunately, a lot of child actors in Hollywood tend to say that, so I highly doubt he'll be coming back. But that sucks, because Dewey was like one of the most popular characters on the show. And I feel like you kind of need all the brothers for this show to really work. You can't just have Frankie Muniz back. It can't just be a Frankie show. It kind of has to be the whole family. And I don't think you're going to get the whole family. So I have mixed feelings about this. How do you guys feel about this? Did you guys even watch Malcolm in the Middle? Oh, they're pulling an iCarly, yeah. Bryan Cranston is so scary. I mean, he can be scary, but he can also play a lovable goof, too. He has layers. Yeah, I know. I want Dewey to come back, but I highly doubt that actor is going to want to do that. Okay, Madonna's exhausted of reboots. Josh says, the revival series is only going to be 4 episodes. Yeah. Are they going to at least bring back everyone? I kind of feel like there's no point bringing the show back if you can't bring back the whole family. Like, the whole family is the show. Anyway, I just hope that it's good. I just thought this was exciting. So that's it for today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for waiting. I know it was late and this was a long stream. I appreciate you all watching to the very end and just enjoying this sit down and chat. Like I said, later this week, I'm probably going to do... I'm actually going to try to make an effort to see both Nosferatu and Mufasa. So I'll probably do like a double feature live stream sometime this week where I review both. So make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss that live stream. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun. I'm so glad to be back. I hope you guys have a nice, happy new year. And yeah.